In 1983, we remember that. Remember when Brooks turned Cooperstown orange? A lot of you were there, right? It was a special year. And joining us today, the president of the National Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum in Cooperstown, please welcome Jeff Idelson.
Thank you, Scott. Ladies and gentlemen, Brooks, Connie, the entire Robinson family, and the other distinguished guests. On behalf of Baseball Hall of Fame Chairman Jane Forbes Clark, our board of directors, and the entire staff in Cooperstown, I can't tell you what what an honor it is to be here today. I can't think of a more appropriate way to honor someone of Brooks's stature than with a magnificent work of art. It's truly remarkable and a fitting tribute to a man whose legacy and accomplishments stand taller than most. You know, working at the Hall of Fame, you're supposed to love all 30 teams equally, and you're supposed to love all your Hall of Famers equally, and the operative word being supposed. Well, I grew up in Boston, and for my 5th birthday, my parents and grandparents took me to see my first ball game at Fenway Park. Red Sox and Orioles were playing a twin bill, and I remember hearing about Carl Yastrzemski and Jim Lomborg and Reggie Smith, but the player who left a lasting impression that day for me was Brooks Robinson. He made a couple of great plays, he had a few hits, and he became the first ball player that I admired, other than my father who played neighborhood pickup games, and I vowed to always play hard and always get my uniform dirty, just like number 5. You know him well, as he's had quite a love affair with your fine city, dating back 56 years to 1955 when he signed with the Orioles out of high school. And we were fortunate enough to acquire him in Cooperstown as a free agent in the summer of 1983 when he was inducted into the Baseball Hall of Fame on the first ballot. I guess if you're going to be with 2 teams for your career, the Orioles in the Hall of Fame isn't too shabby. Given what he's meant to the Orioles and the way he's conducted himself on and off the field, it's no surprise that half of Baltimore did show up in Cooperstown for his induction, and at the time, it was the biggest induction crowd ever for a Hall of Fame weekend. On that day, Brooks rewarded the fans with these words. He said, "I share this day with my adopted hometown because the people of Baltimore have supported Brooks Robinson not only on good days, but also on bad days. My career has been all the more meaningful because of the Oriole fans and friends, many of whom have made this trip to join me here today." As a player, this was a guy who possessed a terrific mix of power, defense, and consistency, and he owned third base. In fact, the great Los Angeles Times sports writer Jim Murray once said, "When Brooks Robinson retires, he's going to take third base with him." Over a stellar 23-year career, he set the American League record with 268 home runs as a third baseman. He represented the American League at third base in 18 All-Star games, and he earned a record 16 Gold Gloves for defensive excellence. Those 16 Gold Gloves were consecutive from 1960 to 75. There was no one better at third base in the American League for 16 consecutive years, and that is an awfully long time. In fact, Hall of Fame third baseman Pie Traynor, who started for the Pirates from 1920 to 1935, once said of Brooks, "He's just the best that there is." Brooks was MVP of the 1970 World Series, hitting .429, and he was so stellar defensively that his glove, not his bat, but his glove from the series is in Cooperstown and there to stay. It's also when he earned one of baseball's greatest monikers, the human vacuum cleaner, after sucking up everything that Lee May and the rest of the Reds hit to him. You know, making it to the Baseball Hall of Fame is incredibly, incredibly difficult. 1% of the 18,000 players who have worn a Major League uniform are represented in Cooperstown. 1 out of 100, 1%. And they earned their way to stardom in very different ways. Hitting for average, hitting for power, pitching, fielding, base running. But there are some common traits that they all share. Tremendous character, integrity, and sportsmanship. And in many ways, it's fair to say that Brooks has set the bar. If you don't believe me, listen to these words from his induction speech. He said, "Throughout my career, I was committed to the goodness of the game. In fact, I feel my love for the game of baseball overrode everything else. I shall do what I can to continue to make this great game of baseball and this world finer and better." In closing, I think it's fair to say there were no better competitors than Brooks, no one who respects the game more than he does, and certainly nobody greater between the white lines, especially when the chips were down. And most importantly, there's no better human being than this man from Little Rock, Arkansas, who calls Baltimore home, the very classy Brooks Robinson. Thank you.